June said. Yeah, beautiful. All right, well, we're at 12 o'clock. That was the pre-game show. And thank you so much for everyone for joining us on this call. Just a little show of hands. You can go up to your top and go on gallery view. It looks like a little Rubik's Cube, and you can press that and you can see everybody. Yeah, and say hello. And Gia, who will be working with me, she's going to make sure that everybody's on mute. If you're not on mute, please do so. We want to keep everybody on mute for this call because we are recording it and we will send it to you. So this is our Lunch and Learn Positivity Building Resilience series with the Wholebeing Institute. And it is the first time that we are partnering with the Wholebeing in a group program together. We're very excited. My name is Caroline Kohles. I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness here at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. And our rubric for health is Move, Restore, Connect, and Nourish. In other words, we're asking the question today, especially at this time, how can we take care of self and take care of one another and find a sense of wholeness? And it seems like a very natural partnership to reach out to the Wholebeing Institute and talk to them about something that they've been working towards and working about and offering courses on for a very long time. Maria, can you talk a little bit about the Wholebeing Institute and also say hello and tell us a little bit about your work?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Maria Sirois. I'm a clinical psychologist by training, a positive psychologist by emphasis, and I have been honored to be a lead faculty member at the Wholebeing Institute for a number of years now. Wholebeing is a global educational and consulting firm that specializes in teachings and trainings that have to do with cultivating positivity, resilience, thriving, and bring us to a place where we experience ourselves and our lives as more whole.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
And you're also an author.
Oh,
can you tell us about your books?
So I have two works. One is called Everyday Counts. It's the story of the lessons I learned from children facing illness. I worked with children facing cancers and other blood diseases for a number of years. And the second book, more recent, is A Short Course in Happiness After Loss and Other Dark, Difficult Times. Times kind of like this, you know, where things are in upheaval, the ground is shifted, and what had been true is no longer true.
Yeah. I believe you were saying something, maybe it was in one of our text exchanges, about bringing hope where there's hopelessness. Can you speak to that and how that's your personal mission?
So one of the elements of positive psychology and of wholeness that we know to be particularly potent in difficult moments falls under the category of spirituality. You know, that general that general category of being connected to something larger than oneself. And meaning and purpose are an element of that category, of the spiritual category. And I have, since the pandemic sort of showed up in our lives, I have practiced all the things I know to practice, which is gratitude, mindfulness, daily exercise, connections. But none of them has been as meaningful as being grounded in the personal sense of meaning and purpose I have in my life, which is to cultivate hope wherever I can.
Beautiful.
That's sort of the bumper sticker mantra for my life, right? No, it's true. I think of it as a bumper sticker, like cultivating hope wherever I go.
I love that. And maybe, Jane, we can type into the chat, like maybe other people have bumper stickers, like their sort of motto or their I am statement, or, you know, things that sort of, their elevator pitch, whatever we call it, but that sort of get them up in the morning, their big why. I think that's kind of important. I'm going to go ahead and while Jane writes that in, what's your bumper sticker motto? You already did it. And spotlight you, Maria. And then have you go ahead and talk to us about resilience, which is what we're here for. So hang on, let me just see if I can do that. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. So resilience is the capacity to adapt healthfully to moments of stress or trauma, loss, or upheaval. We can certainly say that we are all in a time of upheaval. And in the presence of upheaval, we may be experiencing various degrees of stress. I just want to spend a moment normalizing what this is like for most of us. Most of us are now working from home or trying to work from home while raising others or caring for others. And so we're in this blended moment where our worlds are what had been professional and personal worlds are colliding and intersecting. That's one. Two, many of us are much more concerned and attentive about global news than we ever have been because it's having a direct personal impact on each of us, which means between those two factors, many of us are experiencing moments every day when we are either overwhelmed, frightened, worried about ourselves or worried about others, anxious about how work is going to happen moving forward, what it'll look like, will we be successful, can we return to the jobs that we had before COVID-19. We are also feeling sad. There's a great grief inside many of us, and some of us are experiencing anger. I just want to normalize all of those experiences, those emotions. Resilience doesn't mean that we feel good and strong all the time. It means that in the presence of our humanity, which means the ups and downs of feelings and thoughts, we have the capacity to choose wisely how to move forward. And so the rest of the conversation today is going to be about very simple, practical tools to enable us to stay steady within ourselves while the world around us is ungrounded. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it's very helpful. I think that people have felt, I know I've gotten some feedback from my members and constituents and friends and family, I got to hold it together.
Yes.
Right? And, when everything is sort of falling apart.
Exactly. Many of us are okay.
Oops, hang on
so
one
someone
second.
has just done a screen share.
All right, so we will change that. Hang on one second. Can I make you, Maria, a host? Do you know how to do that?
I don't know. There
that?
we go.
Okay.
There we go.
That was my favorite, my Gia. Thank you, Gia.
Thank you. Okay. So the first thing I want us to, and you guys need to participate with me, the first tool that I want to bring to you that is a resilience building tool is the tool of perspective. So it's extremely important during difficult times to hold perspective of what's not working well, but also build in the positive perspective. So very quickly, I'd like you to type in, what are the things that are making your days right now stressful? Just a quick word. What is making your days stressful? So let's just get as many answers in as we can. No sunshine. There we go. My thoughts, isolation, the news, the unknown, too many emails, too many videos. My video stopped working. Tooth extraction, no hugs, uncertainty. Stories of beautiful, excellent, excellent, excellent. What you have just articulated is reality. You are experiencing stress. You're experiencing strain. You're experiencing loss, upset, fear, etc. Excellent. All right, let's all now take a deep breath. Let's breathe in and hold and breathe out. Beautiful. And now I would like you to type in the things that make even these very strange days worth living. Just type in one thing that you're grateful for today. One thing that you're grateful for. Friends, family, my dog, sunshine, my car, proximity to family, love, walking, nature, husband, iPad, now that I don't have to go anywhere, Zoom, FaceTime with, gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. You have also now just articulated reality. Every single day, there are two realities occurring at the same time. The first, those negative, stressful elements, we call those the swamp, or I call them the swamp. Every day is swampy. Every life has some swamp in it. Unfortunately, many of us, especially when things are in such upheaval, experience a real increase in attention toward the swamp. We pay very, very close attention, and we become agitated by the things that are distressing to us. What you have also articulated, however, is the pond, the things that are wonderful and beautiful and life-giving in our lives that we can feel grateful for. These are present in every day as well. And so the first thing that we have come to understand about resilient people is that they hold both the swamp and the pond, and they put their time and energy and focus toward the pond. They invest, in other words, in the good. So the first resilience building strategy I would like you to invite yourself to participate in, and Jane, maybe you can write this down, is what is good in my day today? What can I appreciate? And what one good thing can I elevate today? See, it isn't enough to just know that the pond exists. We have to invest in it, right? Just like we say, oh, I love going out in nature. Knowing that nature exists may lift you, but actually going out and experiencing nature is incredibly increasing of vitality, optimism, decreases depression and anxiety. In other words, the things that lift you need to be invested in. So Jane's typed in, thank you, Jane, for those beautiful questions that can bring you more fully, more directly into the pond. The second thing I want to teach you is a strategy that we call the and. What I'd like you to do, type in now, is a negative thought or phrase that you are having about yourself or about the world at this time. It could be something like, this is never going to get better, or I'm afraid I won't be smart enough to create a new job, or I'm too worried to parent my children well. If you feel comfortable, I'd like you to type in those negative beliefs that you might be having about yourself or about the world. Right? How long will this last? Something's going to happen to people I love. Others are coping better than me. Yes, I'm hearing that a lot. Who am I going to lose? A fear statement, right? I'm not making good use of my time, and I feel guilty about that. I won't be able to stay on track. I'm worried about how I'm going to make my financial future secure. Exactly. Beautiful. And again, breath. We are all having these negative thoughts and phrases. They are part of how we are hardwired as human beings. And in difficult times, they tend to spiral. And sadly, when we have negative thoughts and feelings, they tend to sort of send us into a downward cascade where they lead to other negative thoughts, other negative feelings. And then we do things that aren't healthy for us. We tend to maybe isolate, or we tend to get angry or irritable at others. We tend to punish ourselves. We're mean to ourselves, or we may exaggerate. We may catastrophize. We may jump to conclusions that aren't true. So where do we go with these negative thoughts and these negative jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing feelings? We build in the and. And so on a piece of paper, I want you to write the word and, or on your phone, or you can do it in the chat. And on the other side of the and, I would like you to write down one or two phrases that you know to be true. You actually believe them and are positive. In other words, they move you in a positive direction. So it could be something like this. I'm worried about my financial future, and I know how to ask for help, and I know I'm not alone in this moment, and that makes me feel like maybe I'll find my way through, right? Like those are just the thoughts that came to me immediately. We will figure this out. I'm living my purpose and helping people anyway. Everyone is in this together. Exactly. This tool is foundational. That is a foundational resilience building tool. Because you see, these negative thought habits, they're hardwired into our brain. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. People don't like me enough. I won't get hired again. I won't fall in love again. I'm ill and I'll become even more ill. They're just hardwired. And what we want to do is build resilient capacity by training our brain to spend a little more time in its own pond. Notice I didn't ask you for positive thoughts that are fantastical, that will solve everything. I invited you to move toward positivity in a direction that you know to be true, to tap in perhaps to your own innate optimism, your own sense of resources. I'm afraid to be around people, and I know scientists around the world are racing for a vaccine. Gorgeous. So Sue is reminding herself that others are in this working together on our behalf and well-being. This "and" is a tool you can use all day long. Anytime you notice yourself thinking a negative belief about yourself or about the world, and by the way, even if the belief is true, I have a meeting tomorrow morning with my finance guy at 9 o'clock. I absolutely refuse to look at what's happened to my tiny little investment portfolio until that meeting, because I know I will jump to conclusions. I know I will. And I want to give myself a chance to build in the "and" before I even get on the phone with him, right? This is the pond of the brain, bringing ourselves into what Karen Rivich from Penn calls cognitive flexibility. I have a negative story, but I don't need to stay there. I can build in the "and" move to the pond. I'm concerned about my baby's health, and I'm going to take care of myself and the child to the best of my abilities. Absolutely. I feel alone and isolated, and I have my cat I can hold, right? Whoever that was holding the cat just a moment ago, right? Okay, so we've talked about perspective. Thank you, Lindsay. Talked about perspective, swamp and pond. We talked about a really practical tool called the "and." Now I want to spend a minute talking a little bit more about managing our anxiety. Anxiety is normal and natural under stress. It is normal and natural. It is only, however, part of the story, because within us at all times is a deep reservoir of what we call, in our sort of colloquial culture, meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose, Jane, if you could type this in, has a couple of elements to it. One of it, which is significance. I feel like I matter and my life matters. So meaning and purpose are directly tied to significance. What I'd like you to think about now is, what is it right now that matters to me in my life? What matters deeply? We talked in our pre-game show, Caroline, about, for me, what matters is the sense of cultivating hope wherever I can. That has been my life mission since I was a little girl. I'm sticking to it. I'm diving deep there. So what matters to you in your life right now? Let's just hear some reflections about what matters deeply. My health, family and friends, my fitness community together, the health and happiness of my children, husband's health, present and compassionate to those around me, helping others, integrity, helping community, help. Gorgeous. Safety at home, radiating love and calm, family and sanity. Yes, sanity is important. Helping others with writing, continue. Gorgeous. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is, somewhere next to you, piece of paper, on your phone, write these down. Because tomorrow, when Jane, you're talking tomorrow? When Jane talks to you about character strengths, one of the things that you can do to activate resilience is tie your character strengths, those qualities, those traits in you that are life-giving and positive and beneficial, to this sense of meaning and purpose. But for now, yes, Jane, but for now, what's important to know about meaning, and then we'll take a pause, Caroline, and open it up. What's important to know about meaning is that you can invest in meaning every single day, consciously and mindfully, by asking yourself the following question. all those things that you just wrote down. So for me, how can I cultivate hope today? Just today, just a little bit. For, let's say Laura, helping others and staying present. How might I stay present today? And how might I help just one person today? Love and peace, someone wrote in. How might I elevate love? And how might I elevate peace just a little bit today? Resilient folk invest in meaning a little bit. Right now, I would suggest we do that a little bit every day. Caroline, can we open it up for questions from you or?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about, clarity, communication, and connection.
Ooh,
right?
Right.
Having the clarity of what it is that I'm saying, what is it that I'm doing. And one of the things that has happened to me, I don't know if it's happened to you, is that this situation has stripped away all the things that are not essential, right? And in terms of what you were saying about meaning, and really brought home what is most important to me. And then I've been able to ask myself, because we have so much time on our hands that where we're not out about in the world, how am I spending my time, and is that most important to me? I wanted you to talk a little bit more about, what did you say? Hang on one second, I wrote it down. Cognitive flexibility.
Yeah.
That's a term I haven't heard quite yet before. Talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So Dr. Rivich, who I mentioned, is a professor at Penn, and she was studying first children, then adults who were trapped in depression and anxiety. And by the way, even the most optimistic of us right now are experiencing moments of depression and anxiety, like permission just feel like crap in moments throughout this whole experience, right? And what she came to understand, and she was working off of work from Martin Seligman from decades before, is that how we think has an impact on how we feel, of course, number one. Number two, and those of us who sort of lean toward or are caught a little bit in cycles of depression and anxiety tend to have very rigid thoughts. So I might think to myself, I'm not smart enough to figure how to recalibrate my business during this time. And once I start thinking I'm not smart enough, I get caught in a series of thoughts that are rigid. They tend to be always or never. I'm never going to figure this out. I've never been smart enough to do this. No one's ever loved me enough. We just get trapped in black and white either or thinking. Optimists, however, have cognitive flexibility. Those of us who are resilient practice cognitive flexibility. I may feel, sort of overwhelmed today, and I know I have character strengths. I may feel flooded with sadness in this moment, and I know emotions rise and fall, and I'll feel differently later, right? They are able to hold both negative and positive at the same time. So that's cognitive flexibility.
It sort of relates to what Megan was talking about yesterday in terms of the bigger narrative.
Yes.
Right? The smaller narrative and the bigger narrative. And also this idea she was also mentioning about growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Right.
Right. And you had, I believe when you were at the JCC, you mentioned that you sort of tended to skew negative before. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
And your personal journey with that? Because we know that the brain tends to skew negative, but you seem in front of all of us such this positive, resilient person. But you, I remember confessing or telling us that was learned.
Oh God, yes. Yes. I come from a family and a community system that was perfectionist pessimists. We were brilliant at it. I cannot tell you how many moments I spent around my grandmother's kitchen table with all my aunts sharing the worst news of the day, like it was a competition who had the worst story to share. And, just fair enough, but growing up in those systems, I had also, I think, a neurochemistry that just naturally was a pessimistic neurochemistry. Like my brain tended to move in negative thought habits much more easily than positive ones. And at the age of 29, I made a conscious decision to retrain my brain because I really wanted to be happy in life. I wanted to be the kind of person who enjoyed the good even when things were stressful. And that is the resilient formula. How can we capture, cultivate, and savor the good within ourselves and in the world, even in the presence of dark times? So yeah, I had to do a lot of work. I practiced these tools or similar tools starting at the age of 29. I'm actually now 59, so it's been 30 years of making the choice, the conscious choice to shape my day a little bit every day in the direction of the good.
Wow, that's very inspiring. I would love to just go into gallery view, and if there are some questions, we can have them in the chat, or comments about that. Anybody? You want to put them in the chat there before we move on? All right.
Are you seeing? I'm not seeing any.
I'm
Are
not
we
seeing
it?
any. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So how
did
did you cultivate the good?
So Nancy, the first task I took on at the age of 29 was to love myself a little bit more. And I woke up every morning, and the phrase that would come to mind every morning was, I hate myself, I hate my life. That's just who I was at 29. I don't even remember that girl anymore, young woman. But I began an active, mindful practice of meditating a little bit every day and just repeating the mantra, I love myself, I love my life, until I began to believe it. It took months, but I started to believe it over time. That was my first practice. What that taught me was that if I spent a few moments every single day paying attention either to a positive thought about myself or about the world, I started to feel better and I started to feel stronger. The second practice that I incorporated way back then was savoring the good. I actually went into the day looking for things to appreciate. This is also a resilience building tool. And I invite you to begin to practice this. You know, I'm stuck in my house. I appreciate the fact that I have a roof over my head. Lately, I've been practicing gratitude. I started this last year, Caroline, and I think I taught this to the Parkinson's folk we were with. I have gratitude for inanimate objects. I am so grateful I have a phone. I am so grateful I have a laptop. I am so grateful I have a chair to sit. Like, just literally gratitude for what's in my space. And that gratitude for objects takes me a certain distance. Gratitude for others takes me to a deep, deep well of the pond.
Yeah, some folks are saying gratitude journals. What are the tools besides and you suggest? And how can we not catastrophize during this catastrophe? It's confusing for me. And I think that's a great question.
Yes. So the tools that we've talked about today are paying attention to the pond. That was the first, the and. We've talked about investing in meaning, right? Investing in the meaning and purpose. So 3. And the fourth tool that I just mentioned right now is gratitude, practicing gratitude, right? So those are 4 easily applied tools. You only need to spend a few moments every day with 1 or 2 of them. We will catastrophize during this time. So permission to catastrophize. And we want to give ourselves permission to move away from catastrophizing. And for some of us, the way to do that is to connect with others and have them reality check us. That's number 1. That's a good strategy. A second strategy is to build in the and. I'm terrified that Italy is going to disappear. Like, that is I'm Italian. That's a fear of mine, that the entire country is we're going to lose Italy. And I know that's a crazy thought. And I have that thought all the time. I'm terrified we're going to lose Italy. Breath. And I know that people everywhere are working for the well-being of every country, right? So building in that and will help with catastrophizing. Connection and building in the and.
Can you also talk about the brain and how breath works with the brain and how those 3 breaths can actually change our neurochemistry? And that can, I think, be a useful tool to kind of interrupt the cycle of catastrophizing too.
Sure. So we all intuitively know when we see a child overwhelmed, like having a fit or a temper tantrum or just panicked, we intuitively say, okay, let's take a deep breath. Because at some level, we understand that the breath provides three primary benefits. First of all, it provides a physiological respite from having the amygdala being, the primitive brain being triggered. So it immediately creates a physiological respite, number one. Number two, if you take 3 deep breaths, it begins to ground us psychologically. So literally inhaling and exhaling. And you want to hold a little bit in between. Inhale, hold, and exhale. 3 deep breaths like that creates the beginning of a physiological respite, calm, and psychological grounding. And with those 3 deep breaths, Caroline, we can begin to create enough space between the panic and our reaction to the panic so that we can choose wisely. What do I want to do with my panic? What can I do with my catastrophizing thought? What can I do with the fact that I'm annoyed at my 7-year-old 90% of the day right now? You know, what can I do with those feelings?
I love that you're talking about it going into the body. And, you know, by breathing in deeply and going into the body, we can also observe, right? And when we can observe what we're feeling and what we're thinking, then it's not consuming us.
Right.
Right? And we can choose. We have a little bit more room to choose.
So let me give you an example from JP. Thank you, JP. JP has just written in looking for the silver lining. So let's tie that back to our tool of looking for the pond. This is the pond, right? Creating jobs, retail brands are using resources to make masks, automobile industry produce ventilators. Now, when we are in a state of panic, jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing, those negative thought habits, we might read these headlines and we don't absorb them, right? What we want to do by practicing looking for the good, looking for the pond, those deep breaths, building in the and, all of those tools enable us to not only notice, but savor the good. And this enables us, so let's go back to our overarching theme of wholeness. This enables us to live internally and externally from a place of greater wholeness. Because we can't have wholeness without all of it, the bad and the good. Acceptance of the bad and choosing to elevate the good. So JP, thank you. Gorgeous example. How do you approach family members who don't share your positive approach to the world? You know, with some compassion, with a sense of humor, with the family members who are willing to and want to learn and grow, I model these tools and practices for them. I say them out loud. Oh my God, my brain's just gone crazy. I want a better brain. Where's the pond? I'm looking for the pond. Like my kids grew up with me literally going, I'm looking for the pond. Where's the pond? You know, so they know what that means, right? So some family members will join you as you role model this for them. Some won't. Compassion and a sense of humor. Everybody is doing their best to find their way through.
There's a great question here. What do you find is the single best tool or tip for calming the elderly at this time who may not be able to process more complex exercises?
To remind them that they are not alone, that you're willing to listen and hear, and that you will do your best on their behalf to bring goodness to them and to the world. So they're not alone, you're listening, and you're going to do your best with them to bring goodness to them and to the world.
Here's a great one. How do you stop feeling guilty that your coworkers are working with the public and you are working remotely?
Oh, sir, you know, guilt in all of its forms has risen its ugly head in this time. You know, I'm guilty that I'm spending time working with you and not with my children. I'm guilty that I'm with my children and I'm not getting my work done. I'm guilty that I'm not feeling as panicked as others. I'm guilty that my coworkers get to be out. My partner is a doc. He's in the hospital on the front lines every day. And I'm sitting, you know, in my home having a cup of tea, having conversations. Guilt will find, it's like, you know, liquid. It finds its way into the cracks. And permission to feel guilt. But we don't want to stop there. So feel the guilt, and what can I do now to activate the meaning and purpose of my life? Diving into meaning is an antidote to guilt, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you also talk about shame? Because guilt and shame seem to befriend one another, right?
So shame has to do with that personal sense in the moment of feeling unworthy, feeling not good enough. It's absolutely personally centric. And so any of the practices that you already know that help remind you that you are worthy will help with shame. Brene Brown uses it in her work, in her research, uses it as a mantra. So I feel terrible about myself, and I'm worthy anyway. I'm not working out in the public with people. I'm not a nurse. I'm not rescuing anyone. And I am worthy anyway. So literally to use the mantra of worthiness as the antidote to shame.
That's great. You also have a practice of one good thing. I think, Gia, we might need to mute someone.
That may be my daughter's dog.
Oh,
Who I'm house sitting. I'm sorry.
that's okay. We love the four-leggeds. They have a lot to teach us right now, right?
Yes,
They've been
yes.
home, knowing how to rest, knowing how to stretch and work out before they move for a long time.
Yes. So let me offer the one good thing. I don't know tapping. I can't really address to that. I'm sorry. Perhaps someone else understands that as a resource. Petting pets are therapeutic and calming. Yes. Best moment of the day. One good thing. So one strategy. So this is a strategy that elevates the pond, that increases our capacity for appreciation, for gratitude, and helps us quiet our minds right before we go to sleep. So the practice is very simple. Just before you close your eyes, you ask yourself, what was the best moment today? You bring that moment to mind and you savor it. You don't even have to write it down. You just savor it before you close your eyes. If you were to do this 30 nights in a row, you would learn that every day, no matter how difficult the day, has a best moment. I'll say that again. Every day, no matter how difficult the day, has a best moment. Maybe you could type in some of your best moments.
Oh, let's do that.
12:38 East Coast time today.
I remember you even talking about those days that were really tough, like when your brother passed away, there was still a best moment, and that this was a practice that you consciously do every day.
Right.
And I wondered if you could talk a little bit more too about savoring. Like, what does that mean? Do I physically do something? Is it a sensation?
It's allowing yourself to rest in as much as possible, the fullness of the experience. So remembering how it felt, what it sounded like, if there was a smell or a scent involved, who you were, like just bringing the full or the whole experience back to your recollection and staying there for a moment or two. So, all of our senses are available to us for good or for bad, and we can use them to hold on to the good. Seeing the leaves on my forsythia bush, what does that look like? Is that the yellow, those beautiful yellow blossoms and the bright green leaves and the fullness of the bush and how it felt and the air on your skin? That's savoring, right?
What I love about you just describing is I was able to enjoy that too.
Yes.
We can do that for one another.
Yes.
We can savor and share with one another what one good thing was, or these micro moments. Can you talk about micro moments of shared experiences that lift us?
So micro moments just refers to brief moments, and every tool I have taught you today falls into the category of fast skills, meaning we can apply them quickly and they don't take a lot of time. And what they elevate are these micro moments of positivity. So gratitude, looking for the pond within yourself or outside, or asking yourself, how might I activate my sense of personal meaning and purpose for a few moments today? They all create micro moments, small moments of positivity. And those micro moments provide respite from our suffering, our anxiety, worry, fear, guilt, shame, etc. They provide respite. They provide psychological and physiological recovery. And they open up our minds and our hearts to the next best step. In other words, when we're in a state of positivity, we can think better, more clearly, more openly toward, oh, what can I do next? When we're in a state of negativity, we tend to sort of panic and we don't make better choices.
It's almost as if when we have those micro moments, we ask different questions.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems to, you were talking about the amygdala and it seems like the amygdala, I would wonder if you could explain what happens to the amygdala or the brain, is that our focus, right, narrows and we're just not able to see the perspective.
So when we become triggered, I'll give you an example. Just the other day, I learned that a company that's hired me many times chose to hire somebody else to do a training that is my kind of training. And I got triggered. I immediately felt rejected, abandoned, betrayed, like big words, right? But inside me, my heart was pounding, like literally my heart was pounding. So there was a physiological response to the thoughts I was having. When the primitive brain gets triggered, it takes about 20 minutes for the neurochemistry to calm down. 20 minutes.
Wow.
But we don't want to spend 20 minutes in panic, anxiety, you know, that sense of betrayal, abandonment, whatever. We don't want to spend 20 minutes there. We want to find the capacity to notice that we've been triggered and move toward calm, which is what these strategies do, right? They move us out of panic mode into resilience mode.
It also seems like it would boost our immunity as well.
That absolutely does. We want our brain to be triggered when there really is danger, like when the tiger enters the room or when the truck crosses the median divide and is careening into your lane. You want your primitive brain to trigger a panic reaction, get you out of the way before you've even consciously thought of it. But most of the time, the danger is not nearly as high as we're perceiving it. And we want our brains to be in a place of calm so that we can, again, choose wisely.
I wonder if we could ask people what they're not doing that helps them stay in resilience. In other words, I find that I'm not watching the news.
Right.
I'm not drinking alcohol right now. I'm really paying attention to the sugar that I'm taking for the very purpose so that I'm sort of more calm or more balanced. And I wonder if we could say avoiding negative people, not watching the news either. Yeah. So what are you doing that what are you saying no to? There's things that we think of positive psychology as always saying yes, but it's actually saying no too, isn't it?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Not eating tons of ice cream. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. I'm not taking a phone call until I'm ready for the call. Like I'm not just reacting to somebody because we're all so sort of, you know, like keyed up that I'm, you know, nobody benefits if I answer your call when I am not in a calm place or an excited place. So I'm just, you know, God bless voicemail. Another gratitude, you know, thank you. Thank you for answering machines. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let it go to voicemail. I'm so much better. I'm a better person to everybody, family, friends, everybody, work, etc. So.
And I'm not working 24/7. There's a
Beautiful.
tendency, I know a lot of people are working from home and remotely. And what I'm hearing from my team is, oh my gosh, I don't know how to balance between work and time, you know, my working and being home. Yeah. And it seems like the need is so immediate and I feel so productive if I want to do something.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so let's look and see what some other people have said here.
Limiting negative news, not drinking, putting time limits on calls with family. Yes, exactly. Screening. Using vitamin C, working from home remotely. Oh, yeah. Do you have advice? Oh, so here's a question for those trying to overcome trauma Yes. So again, anything that provides you either physical, psychological, or emotional calm is the best for you. So in addition to the strategies, so we've given you a number of strategies, and my hope is that you choose one or two to practice, right? To actually practice them a little bit each day. But JP and others who have this gorgeous question that we're holding for ourselves or those we love, anything that calms you. So in addition to this positive psychology strategies, taking a bath, going for a walk. I'm building in time to read a novel a little bit every day because it just takes me to another world. What are the strategies that calm you, right? So to add those to the positive psychology list.
It's almost like you're saying, it's okay to be distracted right now. You know,
it's mandatory.
It's
yeah.
mandatory.
Mandatory to be distracted right now in consciously, not to distract yourself by numbing out and watching. Although I totally would enjoy watching Game of Thrones from start to finish all over again. I really would. I could do that. I can imagine it, right? I can feel my flannel pajamas coming onto me right now, right? Like, exactly. And permission to distract myself, permission to cultivate meaning, permission to look for the pond, permission to practice the tools and strategies that I know are going to lift me.
Awesome. I never knew reading a novel was a distraction. I thought it was a necessary part of living.
It absolutely is, Mega. And I don't know if you're finding this, Mega, but having to provide work now every day online, as opposed to a balance of online and in person, I'm finding it hard. I'm finding it hard to know, like, is 7 hours online enough, which is exhausting, or should I be putting it in that eighth hour, you know? And so putting aside time for the novel gets me out of that spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to take you off Spotlight. And then we're going to see everybody and open it up. We've got about 10 minutes. Let me just see if I can do this. If you can, just raise your hand like this or raise your hand in the chat. Let's go to you, June. Go ahead.
What am I saying?
You had a question? Oh, you were just waving?
Oh, she was saying, raise your hand if you have a question.
Oh, sorry. Well, June, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Hang on. Anyone have a question? Let me see.
So just to answer Jennifer's question, my website is my name, mariasirois.com. And you can go to my website, and on the contact page, if you want to join my email list, I'm sending out emails and messages more and more often this time about what I'm working on. I am doing other free resilience sort of based trainings moving forward. You can also find me through the Wholebeing Institute website. We're launching a 3-session online course in April on living your best from your better self through a conversation about authenticity, resilience, and thriving. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. Thanks for the question, Jennifer.
Awesome.
You're welcome, Nancy. My feeling about drugs like Xanax, listen, so as someone who has had to do a lot of work on my brain, my neurochemistry, I have tremendous compassion for the reality that there are times when medicine absolutely is mandatory. I was just speaking to a coaching client yesterday who literally cannot, she is in such panic, she cannot leave her home, and she has to leave her home. She's a nurse. She's being called into work. She wants to be able to work. She can't get out of her home. And so we've discussed about how this is the perfect time for medication. All of these other tools are still available to us. Every single tool is available to us. Mega, who knows beautifully the power of movement and the body to cultivate optimism, even in the presence of depression and anxiety. We want to throw that into the mix also, our beautiful bodies, moving our bodies. And there is a time and place, absolutely, for medication.
Can you remind what going to the pond means, please?
So the pond is the metaphor that I used that captures the things that are good in our lives and good in ourselves. And we want to consciously make the choice to visit the pond by practicing gratitude, by building in the and, by elevating meaning.
I loved it once when you were working with my staff. You had a big whiteboard, and on one half you put a line down the center. And this is kind of a fun exercise for everyone to do from Maria. And on one side, you just write everything that like sucks about whatever it is that you're, feeling at this moment. And then you write everything. So it could be everything that sucks about life. I mean, we did this with the people living with Parkinson's, and it was amazing. And you asked them the question, what sucks about having Parkinson's? And there was 110 people, and they just all started throwing their responses, and we were writing them all down. And then on the other side, and what's amazing about life, and that's the example of the swamp and the pond that I thought was, for those that are visual, that was so effective.
Yes, yes.
How can we access this session to revisit the material? They will be, all of our calls are being recorded, and they will be sent to you so that you can go and listen to them again.
So does that mean the link will be emailed to
Yes.
people who registered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it'll also be provided to the Wholebeing Institute.
Gorgeous.
And I understand, Maria, did you already talk about some free things that you have offering? Phoebe said there were some free things that were going on.
I am in the middle of putting together a number of Wholebeing Institute has a number of free offerings right now. And
Okay.
I'm sorry, maybe we can
That's
get that
okay.
information to you. If you visit Wholebeing, it'll pop right
Yeah.
up.
And Jane, can you put the Wholebeing Institute in the chat? And Gia, can you put the virtual programs, a link to the virtual programs in the chat? That would be great. Yes. There we go. Or I can.
Wholebeing we don't have a certificate for resilience at this time. We have a certificate in positive psychology and a certificate in coaching. There is a resilience course that I teach through Wholebeing every year online, which will be in the fall. So coming soon in October.
Okay, I just got a text from Phoebe.
Love that.
I know. Go to the link and hit quick. Oh, yes. So you guys, I just wanted to remind everyone to sign up. So tomorrow, and we should have Jane jump in here a little bit and talk about what she's going to do tomorrow. And then Mega will be on Thursday, and then Sherry's going to be on Friday. But some folks have been having a difficult time registering. You want to hit the quick checkout, and you do need to register for each one of these calls individually, so we can send you that link. All right. Oh, wonderful, Ellen. Certificate in Positive Psychology is fabulous. Highly recommend. Thanks for the call and fabulous info, Maria and New York JCC.
Hi,
awesome.
Ellen.
All right, everybody. I just am stunned by how simple these tools are and how effective they are.
Yes.
And I cannot tell you enough how much we appreciate you spending some of your time, your 7 hours online with us. And so we can learn about this important thing, which is resilience, and how to be more whole. And you learned something from the cancer folks that you were with, the kids. They really seemed to want to live. They didn't spend their time so much.
Like what you had said earlier is that when you are, and many of you know this, when you are in the territory of a life-threatening diagnosis, it gets super clear what's important and what's not important. And I witnessed 8-year-olds have incredible wisdom about who they were going to spend time with and who they weren't going to spend time with, right? And 12-year-olds get super clear about what was important in their lives and what was not important any longer. So that was just one of the lessons they taught me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I guess for our final chat, what are the things that are the most important to you right now? Yeah. What have you learned, and what can we send each other off with what has been so meaningful and what you've realized.
Mm.
Gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Cindy.
Yeah. Our community is empowering.
Nancy. Yeah.
And I want you guys to know, and everyone to know, that the JCC, along with Wholebeing, is we're committed to finding a way to connect and create a caring community virtually. We're committing to fighting isolation, and we're committed to the reality of that we are not alone, that we really are in this together. And for that vision and for sharing that vision, I just want to thank Maria and everybody at Wholebeing, and thank you all for joining us. Hold the pond and the swamp, JP.
Hold the pond in the swamp, yes.
And then,
Caroline, before you go to Jane and tomorrow, thank you for all you have created on our behalf.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Jane, I want to unmute you. Tell us about, 1 second. Jane, for some reason, I can't unmute you. Why is that? Can you unmute yourself? Yes.
There, how's that?
Awesome.
Good. So yes, tomorrow we'll be talking about character strengths, which are 24 capacities that we each have. And then we each have our own unique blend of signature strengths. And tomorrow we're going to talk about how these signature strengths can help lead us to meaning, and help lead us to connection, and help us navigate these difficult times where there's so much stress and adversity. So come ready to lunch and learn, I guess. And I'm going to share a number of practices with each of you that you can practice on your own, and you can also share with your household right now, your families, your neighbors, your teams, and whoever you're hunkering down with right now, to share these practices. So that's just a quick preview.
Yeah, and Jane, can you type in the chat, isn't there a VIA strength survey that everyone can take preemptively before they come on the call that might be really helpful and a fun activity?
I'm going to send two websites. One is mine, which is strengthsbasedliving.com, and you can go on my site, and actually a drop-down box comes where you can take the survey, and you can also take it at viacharacter.org, which VIA Institute is the global nonprofit that is kind of the hub of all the research and practice of character strength.
Awesome. So I'm going to cancel the spotlight video, and I'm going to unmute everybody. And we're going to get a chance to say goodbye and hear the cacophony of all of our voices at the same time. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jane. Yeah.
You are welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Love you.
Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Be safe. Be well. Wash your hands.
Jennifer, yes. Jennifer, yes.
Hi, Maria. How are
Hi,
you?
Jennifer, yes to your question.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm going to try and get in touch with you to figure out other stuff you're doing.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you very much for everything, both of you.
Bye. Bye,
everybody.
Deborah. Bye.
Thanks, Maria.
Bye, Mega. Bye, Jean.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Karen.
Maria.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Caroline. See you
Bye, Caroline.
Think of Phoebe too.
Bye.